You're listening to the Neurospice and Life podcast.
And I'm Hanna, sexologist, sensologist, lovable weirdo, oversharer, and not sorry about it.
And I'm Freya, a lexithymic counsellor, mum, chaos wrangler, and happy little steamroller.
Whether you're neurotypical or neurodiverse, our podcast is for everybody and every brain that has ever been labelled.
Welcome back to another episode. I'm Hanna.
And I'm Freya.
And today we are talking about being honest, and how blunt can often be misconstrued as rude.
Yes.
So I know that this is something that you've struggled with.
What do you mean? That will be a shock to all our listeners that have been listening along.
I don't know what you're talking about. So what does blunt mean to you?
Yeah, so this is a big one. Again, like it goes back through like my entire life, and I've got quite early memories of this. And like I was always the kid, I'd never get in trouble for what I did. I'd get in trouble for what I said. So like, you can't say that, go to your room was heard with probably disturbing regularity, in our household, but also as well like on school reports and stuff like that. It would be, my level of directness and forthrightness would be of note. And I still remember one of our good friends, and like we were doing house renovations or something like that, and there was an issue with a gardener or something like that, a landscaper. And this is when I sort of really clocked that, oh, maybe I'm not doing such a good job of managing this as I thought I was, because I've spent a lot of time over the years trying to manage it. And I said, like, and I've explained like what the issue is and, options to fix it. And I thought it was a really good meeting, and now they're not returning any of my calls. Like they've disappeared. And I was so polite about it. And like the friend's like, like, and I think the word's like, I would have paid money to see that. I'm like, what do you mean? And she's like, your idea of polite and other people's idea of polite may not be the same thing. And I think I turned around and said, what? Like, and then I think I might have said, get effed, or like, like F off, like I don't believe you type thing, but in a very blunt and direct way, which I think just proved her point. But yeah, it's something I've spent huge amounts of effort and energy, over the years moderating and managing.
Yeah.
Like I just, like from a young age, I remember like not having that filter, as all young people don't do, between their mouth and their brain, right? They haven't learned how to curate a message or anything else like that. But I remember saying words and then registering the emotion and the hurt or confusion on other people's faces, and not being able to understand why or where that was coming from or what it is that I had done to cause that. And so I'd learned to sometimes not say anything. That was a big one, just, bite your tongue or try and soften the message a lot. And then going through school and going through the corporate world, it was a big one, in corporate world, and getting told all the time I was too direct, I was too forthright, and I would also take people at their word. So if they say I've shared something with them and I'm socializing a document and they say that's okay and that's fine with them, then I've taken it that that's actually okay, and turns out apparently that doesn't mean that that's okay. That, there's this layer of artifice and this layer of fake that I don't necessarily get or understand. Like I just expect everyone says what's on their mind.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you go into, well, I've got to overcompensate. And so I soften every single message in my head and dilute it down to make it more consumable, to make it more polite, to make it more less offensive. If I can say that.
I can only imagine what goes on in your head before it comes out of your mouth now.
If you could have a translation of it, it would be like, it'd be the best thing. Maybe I should give it a go in this convo, see how we go. But like, just that constant softening and processing of it. And then I found that I was, and they're like, you need to explain things more. So then I would explain things more, because it's like you're coming across as arrogant because you're not explaining stuff. You're not bringing people along on the journey. Fuck your journey. Sorry, we're gonna have to bleep out a lot of this episode.
I'll just put an explicit content warning on
this one. Yeah, exactly. We tag it up. And but then I would over explain, and then I would explain it, and then I got called arrogant, and that I was over explaining, which is apparently in corporate world an indicator of overuse of intelligence, if you could believe there is such a thing. So I kind of always just felt trapped between this rock and this hard place, and just unable to find a acceptable medium.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about you?
Very similar, actually.
Yeah. She's the nice one. People.
I Yeah, I call it people pleasing. So,
Yeah.
it does come with its own trap. Um, I really didn't understand when I was growing up why there was such a different way in the things that people said and then the things that people did.
Yeah.
And so I didn't really understand, why people didn't mean what they say and say what they mean.
Yeah.
And so because pattern recognition, things like that, I got really, really good at reading subcontext.
Okay.
And then I was able to read body cues. But I was also in a situation where from time to time, I was not in a safe environment where, whether it was school or, elsewhere. And it was very, very clear that I had to watch what I say
Mm-hmm.
because the punishment that came with being honest was worse than
Lying.
it was worse than lying. And so it was this expectation to give way to other people's needs because of the fact that whether it was adult social graces were
Yes.
at risk.
Yeah.
And so, potentially embarrassing adults,
Yeah.
this perception of being seen to have a child that didn't have social graces, that they didn't, understand tact and things like that. And I really feel like there's such a disservice done to kids because if we can't take what a child says as, a child has said it, if we take offense at that,
Mm-hmm.
it's just mind blowing because they
Mm-hmm.
don't mean it with any kind of
Malice.
malice.
No. No.
At least, most kids. And so there's this feeling of having to, essentially navigate a bit of a minefield because you're constantly walking this edge of what am I saying? Is it okay? What boundaries are there? Am I crossing them? Am I crossing my own boundaries? So it was, in the end, it was just much, much easier to be a people pleaser because to be labeled rude or blunt or things like that meant, and particularly for women,
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
we have to be nice. We have to be polite.
Easy.
Sugar and spice and everything nice. And, that was something that I probably heard quite a lot. And from time to time, I would also hear children should be seen and not heard.
Oh, yeah, that was a good one.
That was a fun one. And so if I was sort of caught in this trap where I was told to be honest, but if I was too honest, I'd be punished. So then I might lie. But then if I was caught lying,
You'd be punished.
then I'd be punished.
So it's like, be honest, but not too honest.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, even making way for other people, where we are, it's bizarre because when we talk about things like politicians, we talk about salespeople, when we ask for advice or when friends and family might tell us something like, oh,
Yeah.
you look really nice today, we don't believe them
Mm.
because we're so accustomed to this honest but not too honest, honest but lying, to save social graces, to be tactful, to be polite, to protect other people's feelings, that we don't actually trust anybody.
Anything. And like even when in corporate training and stuff, and you do all that sort of stuff, and it's like as a people leader or as a manager, it's really important to not scare the troops. So even if you've had the worst day in the history of the world, how are you today? I'm well, thanks. I'm like, but isn't it better that they know I'm in a rubbish mood?
Yeah.
And that if I'm more snappy or more direct or maybe don't have time for them or brush them off, it's nothing to do with them. It's to do with the fact that I'm having a hard day, and it's okay if you have a hard day too. Apparently that's not okay.
No, people don't want to hear about that.
So it's like everything's like, that movie Madagascar with the penguins, smile and wave, boys, smile and wave, nothing to see here. So yeah, it's like that constant thing of every single day of like, again, be honest, but not too honest.
Yeah.
And, and be authentic, but not
too authentic.
And it's such a fine line to tread. And like in my head, it's just so simple. It's just like, just say what you need and say what you want. And then like, I'm not great necessarily at interpreting, like how emotions appear on faces and stuff. Like I'm really good at identifying a change, and I'm really good at picking up deception. People have called me the human lie detector. It's quite funny. Like, the 2 truths, 1 lie game.
Yeah.
And we like played that so many times, and like every single time I'm like, it's this one. And they're like, why? And I'm like, because when you said that one, this changed, right? It was a difference in your face. But I can't necessarily interpret more if people are being fake
Yeah.
like as opposed to actually outright lying and deception. It's weird. But, if you say something's fine, I'm going to believe you.
Side note, I mean, I've always found icebreakers, that those things to be beyond painful, and I think we can all relate to that. And there was a great video I saw ages ago where it was bypassing that, and the the two truths and a lie was in a group. I hate you, and I hate you, and you walk off.
Never to be invited back again.
Oh, fantastic.
I love it. Next time we'll peg it in, we'll lock it in. And it's really funny. And so like I got, I think, really good at I thought I got really good, until that gardener comment from my friend, but like at managing that tightrope and walking that tightrope, and it was very tiring every day. But there are certain times as well where like all rules go out of the window. So like I'm a really strong person with a fairness driver and like a quality equity driver. If something's not fair to me, it's just like all rational ability just goes out the window. And like I will, I don't want to say the word eviscerate. This is like a good example of like, how do I say this directly but not too directly? I will eviscerate people, right? Like if I feel that there is something that is not fair, and I will argue a point until the cars come home, and I remember like, I'd say this, like your 16th birthday party, people, not the time, two, not the place, and your uncle was there, and he was like a high-ranking lawyer or whatever, and it was around the time that was some stuff happening with mandatory minimum sentencing and the racial bias that occurs as part of that, and it was doing my head in, and I was like a year 10 legal studies student, and like it was like next level like argument side of things associated with that at the dinner party. It was still a lovely event, I believe.
Yeah, that was the time when my grandfather said sweet 16 and never been kissed, and I had to kick you under the table to stop you from laughing.
That was true. And I didn't say anything out loud that day. That was for that bit. I figured
well done you.
Yeah. I censored myself. But I figured that was, I'd probably done my dash before dinner. But like, a lot of times like that where it's in those moments where those things are challenged or threatened, then for me it can be really like my ability to moderate that voice between my inner voice and my outer voice is really, really tricky.
100%. I feel the same too with the obvious statements, the statements that people make to you as though you haven't had it 1,000 times beforehand. I'm quite a tall woman. I'm over 6 foot, so I often get the, "Gosh, you're tall." And look, depending on what mood I'm in, it will be the smile and wave situation, or it will be, "Wow, no one's told me that before."
Yeah.
And it does put people off because they're expecting a temperate, tactful response.
Yeah.
They're expecting you to play along. But at a certain point, if you think I haven't heard it 1,000 times before, you would be wrong. And so I actually created cards that they were business cards. And I was handing them out at Burning Man as a part of my gift one year, and they literally said, "Why, yes, I am tall. You're so observant." And then there was a space to fill in how tall you were.
Yeah.
And then under that were circles that you could cross out depending on I do not play basketball, football, netball, or volleyball. The weather up here is lovely. I'm so glad we had this conversation.
And yes, I'll get that for you from the top shelf of the supermarket.
Yes, and then just hand them to people. And so there was even a time at work ages ago where there was a colleague, and we were waiting by the lifts, and it was a day that I'd chosen to wear heels. And we're not talking about anything crazy, and they're probably about 2 inches high. Anyway, we're standing next to each other, and he sort of probably comes up, half my arm, and he looks at me, and then he looks up, and he says, "I wish you wouldn't wear heels. I feel very intimidated." And if it hadn't been the end of the day, I probably would have said something slightly different, but I think I'd had enough at that point. And I turned around to him and I said, "I can't make you feel anything that you don't already feel." Now, thankfully, this was my peer and not my manager.
Yeah.
But
it probably wouldn't have changed though.
Probably
whoever
not.
It was.
Let's be honest.
Yeah, it wouldn't have.
It wouldn't have.
It wouldn't have. And as you say that, that's really interesting too, because like always at work, I would get a lot of comments like, and seen as a real positive, right? And that I would treat everyone the same regardless of position. So I would talk to the CEO or the managing director of these large, huge businesses the same way I would speak to a teller or someone that's on the phone. And because to me they're all people, and I'm not somebody that is status does not register for me, and I don't see the hierarchy, and I don't see that side of things as well. And I think that sometimes plays into the bluntness, because if you're at that senior level and you ask me what you're thinking, I will tell you in exactly the same way that I will tell a teller, or somebody in what's considered the lowest role in the organisation, because everyone loves putting people on ladders, right? I will talk to you the same no matter where you are.
Yeah.
Because the job title to me is just a job title. It's not who you are. And so, some people would find that endearing. Some people would find that threatening. And some people would just be like on the side with the bowl of popcorn, like just watching, just like, oh my God, here she goes again, but it's just something that it just made sense to me. Like, why does that job title change? Why does this person deserve a different level of respect to this person?
Yeah. And they may have worked there, they may have earned it, and that's fine. But that doesn't mean that they don't deserve any less respect from that level of honesty.
Exactly.
Because honesty, as far as I'm concerned, is respect.
Yeah. And that's, I think, a really big piece for a lot of neurodivergent people too, right? If I'm being honest with you, I'm trusting you.
Yeah.
But I'm also as well being respectful of your time and your energy.
Yes.
Because for a lot of us, I know, like, words are hard, and whether that's written words or whether that's verbal words, processing that information can be really, really tough. And so having fewer words, fewer sentences, more contained questions, few interactions, that's actually a kindness in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And it's actually really considerate of the other person.
Yeah. It's funny, as he was saying that, I was remembering that I had attended my cousin's wedding in New York one year.
Yes.
And he was getting married to the daughter of the CEO of a very well-known fashion brand. And I went up and I said hi to this guy, this person worth multi-millions, and had a conversation with him.
Yeah.
And a few people came up to me afterwards. They were just like, how? Like, I wanted to thank him.
Yep.
For, me being here, because it was such an amazing experience. I didn't want to take it for granted. I wanted to let her know that I was very grateful to be a part of it. Yeah. And also that, like, you're marrying into a great family.
Yeah.
Especially because, I was the only other family member other than the parents that was able to attend.
Yeah.
And so I felt like it was, it was just a really,
your family.
Yeah. It was a respectful thing to do. Yeah. And we got into this very funny conversation about Burning Man. Mm. And I said, I'd just been to Burning Man, and he said something along the lines of, what did you do there? And I said, I found myself. And he thought for a second, and he went, I don't think I'd want to find myself. And, it was what I considered to be quite a beautiful level of honesty from this person who, had that moment and just went, no, not for me. And that's totally fine. But it gave us something. It gave us a level to communicate on. Yeah. And so I agree with you.
If you hadn't had that ability to be blunt, that ability to be direct, the ability to see through hierarchy, it never would have happened.
Absolutely.
As a side note, you said that immediately. I found myself, I was like, she was behind that couch the whole time. That immediately came into my head. So it's wild. But yeah, it's not necessarily a bad thing, but it's something that is something that I think quite often holds us back, and particularly in the school space, and particularly in like work environments and those type of things where it's seen as such a negative trait. Yeah. And, to me, I love it so much. It's seen as such a beautiful trait to me, and so much part of our culture. It's just, so it's that real disconnect through it. And again, it comes back to, I think, that we talk about Milton and the double empathy thought and the different communication styles, and those type of things. And it's actually a really great trait, I think, of many neurodivergent people, is that ability to be direct and just to cut through and to say what's on our mind and express what we're feeling and thinking. And I think it's a real strength in relationships too. Like if you're in a relationship where both you and your partner can be direct with what's happening and be honest.
Oh my gosh.
It saves so much time
it saves.
Yeah.
To not have to dance around, to not have to mince your words, to not have to constantly backpedal or over-explain, and to just be able to say what you mean and have that be okay.
Yeah.
Because you should know that it's not coming from a place of hurt.
No.
It's often, I don't have time or the brain space other than to say what I mean and mean what I say.
Yeah. But also as well, if you're going to ask me a closed question, you're going to get a closed answer.
Sure.
So like, you know, like a really good example is like, do you want to go, like people have overheard me and my husband, and look, I am the more direct out of the two of us. I think I'm the more direct out of any combination of two people on the planet. But like, he'll ask things like, he'll be like, do you want to go to this event? I'll just go, no. No further explanation needed, nothing. Do you want to go? No. Like, that's it. He goes, okay. But, you know, again, I'd prefer that than spending a whole heap of money on tickets and, you know, it then being this thing that's been booked in and this thing that then has to be done.
Yeah.
Because we haven't been honest about it up front, you know, and him also getting the opportunity to, because he grew up in a, I don't want to share his stories for him, but he grew up in an environment where it's definitely not okay to be honest, and it was definitely not okay to say what you wanted or thought. So for him getting that freedom to actually go, you know what, like I'm exhausted, I've had a really big day at work, is it okay if I skip dinner at your mum's? Yes. Like that's fine. And explaining that too, you know, and going, that's all right, like it's actually okay.
Yeah.
You know, and it's now to the point of going, I'm not going tonight, fine. Like
But I find too as well that the inverse can happen. So when you become a people pleaser, it's so much time and energy and mental effort is exerted on questioning whether or not people are genuinely okay.
Yes.
And so if you say, are you okay? And they say yes, and then still wondering, are they okay? Still turning it over in their mind, scrutinizing every move, every word, looking for evidence to confirm that they're not okay.
Yeah.
And that's also a self-preservation method as well. That's a coping mechanism that I think a lot of people can relate to, because it's often picked up when you weren't in a safe space, when you did need to look for social cues and did need to have that pattern recognition, and you did need to literally, it's almost like when animals do it, when they sort of, you know, taste the air just to kind of, you know, feel the vibration, sense the energy. And you can tell, I can tell when a person's energy has shifted. I can tell when, you know, there's like, even if they're masking really well, there's something about their energy or something like that. And there's something that you can just pick up on and
feel it.
You can feel it and you can't necessarily explain it. And so it means that you often put yourself in a position where if you're constantly questioning your surroundings, you can't believe what others are actually telling you. It's an ongoing process that can leave you anxious, it can leave you depressed, it can leave you, you know, in that situation where you can't necessarily trust what other people are saying around you. And there's a constant, almost, compulsive need for reassurance.
Yeah. And it's interesting, as you've said that too, right? You describe that environment. Immediately I'm like, well, how do you feel safe in that environment? Like, how does your body feel safe in that environment? If you can't trust what's around you, you don't know what the rules are. Like, how's it even possible to feel safe? It's no wonder you end up feeling anxious.
Yep.
It's no wonder you can end up feeling depressed.
Yep.
Right? It's feeling lost.
I mean, Mel Robbins has an amazing, you know, her book is out, and I've, you know, been listening to some of the podcast episodes, and it's just called Let Them.
Oh, yep.
Yeah. So
you're saying Mel Robbins, and I'm like, don't know who that is. Can't
face and name, plain this. So with Mel, she has this wonderful philosophy, which is, if somebody is going to tell you that they're fine, let them.
Yep.
If somebody wants to tell you that they're not fine, let them. And so, you know, it goes so much more beyond that, which is this beautiful ideology that you can't control other people.
Mm-hmm.
At best, you might be able to influence.
Yeah, sure.
But you cannot control other people. You can't control what they say. You can't control what they do. Or
how they think.
How they think.
Feel.
Yeah. And so at the end of the day, if you are going to ask a question and somebody says, yes, you look fine in that dress, and you don't believe them, that is your responsibility and you're taking that on. So how you can feel safe in that environment is that even when all your other spidey senses are saying, no, this person's on the level, but your brain is the one saying, no, we can't believe them.
Yeah.
Then that's something that, you know, we can take accountability for, and go, no, I'm going to reframe this. I'm going to rethink this in this moment. I'm going to trust this person. If they are usually trustworthy about almost everything else, I'm going to choose to trust them. This is my safe person.
And I think that let them is a really good analogy to a really good catchphrase as well about how we choose to receive communication, how we choose, but also as well to respond to what other people think of us. So there's an element of and what I've learned over the years too, right? There's only so much softening and massaging of myself I can do. And as I say this, I picture a giant little ball, a giant ball of Play-Doh in my head and trying to mush it into different shapes, right? There's only so much I can do. It's still Play-Doh, right? I'm still always going to be more blunt than probably 9 out of 10 people standing next to me, and it's that thing of going, well, I can try and massage and change, and maybe I can be, more blunt than 8 out of 10 people, and get that improvement of 1. Yay. But at what cost to me, as opposed to just going, if people feel I'm blunt, then let them, and let them do
You're
that.
not going to change their minds.
Yeah.
And it's there's a Buffy quote, because like everything in life, there's either a Simpsons quote or a Buffy quote.
Sure.
The quote is, Cordelia just saying, tact is not just saying true stuff. I'll pass.
I love it. And it's and I think though, what happens though is we massage ourselves and push ourselves down too. It really is comes back to that minority stress scenario of trying to conform and trying to fit into other situations, and you spend so much effort trying to curate yourself, and it just is exhausting.
Yeah, 100%.
So that ability to just go, the tact. What was it? I've forgotten because What was the Cordelia quote?
Tact is just not saying true stuff.
Yep. I'll pass. Yep. So just going, I'll pass. That's fine. It's okay. I'll pass. I'll pass.
It's for other people. It's not for me.
Yeah.
And I think it really boils down to 2 critical things, right? Is that there's the feelings of the other person, and then there's your intention. And so there's a term that's called prosocial lies, which is hilarious. So it's lies that are told to benefit others. And the studies that they've done on this actually show that it increases the trust that you have with other people. And so
hang on, lying increases trust.
Yes.
Oh, my brain.
Being 100% honest can decrease trust.
Why?
Yes. And so in these studies that they've looked at, and they've taken people who are 100% honest 100% of the time.
Yeah.
And so no filter.
Yeah.
So those people are considered to be rude, they're considered to be arrogant, and they're considered to be blunt. And by association,
pleased to meet you,
they have poor social skills or weak social skills.
Yes.
Now, having social skills, social grace, tact, all those wonderful words, when they talk about tact and diplomacy, is an art form.
Yep.
It is literally an art form. Yeah. There are people out there whose job it is to be a diplomat.
Yes.
For diplomacy. That is why it is an art form. And so the fact that people see certain lies of being of benefit to you. So, for example, if you were to tell me...
Do you like my new haircut? Yes.
But I genuinely do. But even if I thought that you had made a huge mistake, I would still find a way to tell you that I'm not a big fan of it, but as long as you like it, that's the most important thing.
Right. So if you ask me that and I just turn around and go, no.
That you're not a fan of it?
Would you like my new haircut? And I turn around and go, no.
No.
That's a bad thing.
Well, yeah. I mean, if you were a stranger and you did that, so the thing that happens, and it comes in relationships, is that there needs to be a level of trust and a level of intimacy in order to be able to allow for bluntness to not be considered to be rude or to have weak social skills.
Right.
Because the trust has to be established before you can be honest with people.
To do that. And social skills is another thing that just sends me wild, because so often the standards and the definitions that exist of what a social skill looks like are built on neurotypical norms. They're not my norms, people. They're not my standards. I'm going to fail that test every time.
And unlearning them
is hard work.
Yeah.
But that's really interesting to me, though, the idea that lies can help
build trust and to begin with.
Yeah. And this is and so many times in my life I've had these moments where it's just such a I feel like this is a bit of a therapy session, but like a bit of a disconnect between what's
Do I
happening
need
inside
to
and
declare a
outside.
conflict of interest?
Yeah, conflict of interest, dual relationship. Yeah, but like it's like this disconnect between what should be okay and what's actually okay. And like again, when I was like in corporate world, and there was this thing called an LSI 360, and I'm not sure if you've heard of it, but called Lifestyle Inventory 360.
No.
And it's a tool that corporations spend millions of dollars on every single year, getting people to do, right. And the idea behind it is you answer a series of questions, like statements about yourself, like I am this, from very not true to much true, right? And or very like me to unlike me, whatever. And then you give it to people with a 360 around you. So like it might be a manager you report to, one above. It might be people to the side of you, your peers. It might be people that work for you, right, on your team. And I've done it twice, and like, and then it graphs your responses, so it compares you to them, and it puts your responses into 3 behavioral styles. So there's like a green section and a red section, and green is passive, red is aggressive, and then there's blue, which is constructive. And so what you need to know about this is green is red, and red. So green and red are both bad.
Right.
Blue is good.
Sure.
Right. And
I love
so,
green.
Yeah. Mad for green. But like, yeah, green and red on this tool are seen as bad, and blue is seen as good. And both times I've done it, what's happening internally for me is a sea of mostly red, which is the aggressive style for those listening at home, and a little bit of green, which is passive, and smatterings of blue. But everyone else doing it resoundingly like blue off the charts. And so they're like, first time I did it, the facilitator's like, I literally don't know what to do with this. Like, I've never seen this before in my
I
career.
don't know what to do with you.
I don't know. Like, I do not know how to debrief this, right? All I can say is everyone thinks you're doing a great job. Keep up with what you're doing, right? The second time that I've done it, they look at it and they go, wow, you must really hate yourself, right? And like the whole training went down that pathway of me hating myself. And actually now looking back at it, right, what was happening is like, I'm like, that's what autistic masking looks like. That's that internal voice in my head, and everything everything I'm wanting to say, stifling it and then putting it out there in a way that's acceptable for other people. And they were buying it. Like, they were buying it. I was doing an amazing job of...
You've always been able to sell ice to, somebody who lives in Antarctica.
True. But like, yeah, they were like, she's a really nice, constructive, good person and leader, and inside I'm like, shut up, but like just please stop talking. But it was just this real thing. And now, like, looking at it and looking back at it, and at the time I was like, this whole thing, I thought there was this real disconnect between what I was feeling about myself and what I was thinking and what I was saying, and I thought it came from a place of hating myself, but actually it wasn't that at all. That was actually really deep masking. And the irony of it, the second time I did that, and again, it was like, you're amazing people that keep it up. Like, change how you talk to yourself internally, but keep it up because everyone loves you. I was so close to burnout. Like, I think within 2 months of doing that course, I was in another patch of burnout. Yeah. I just had finished a master's of business administration in like 13 months as well, while working full time. So
remember that.
Yeah, it was that time of life. So I'd had a lot going on, and overcommitted and all the rest of it. But like, I was spending so much time making myself acceptable to everyone else, so much effort making myself acceptable to everyone else.
Yeah.
And they were like, keep doing it, it's great. But inside
like,
it was like, it was eating me up.
Yeah.
But just not understanding where it was coming from or what this disconnect was, and not being able to make sense of it. And as an autistic person, that's like one of the cruelest things. If you've got a puzzle you can't solve, it's like, I will be thinking about that at 2:00 in the morning. Like, I need to understand.
Yeah.
And I need to solve the problem. So yeah, so it's really funny, like all of those like moments in your life that you have when you look back with like a specific label and trying to make sense of it all, and going, yeah, well, that was, such huge extents to go to hide the bluntness.
Absolutely. And it's interesting when you look at the science behind it too, and you look at the parts of your brain that require things like executive function.
Yeah.
Your prefrontal cortex, your PFC, it involves things like planning, decision-making, impulse control. When you think about, particularly for AU ADHD, and think about like how much effort it actually requires not to have the impulse control.
Yeah.
Like to have impulse control,
Yeah.
more to the point. it doesn't actually take that much.
Do not have impulse control. Yeah. I'm very good at that.
And so, you know, if you've got kind of a weakened connection between the prefrontal cortex and the amygdala is the primary brain region that's involved in processing emotions. You think about those two together, and the fact that if there's a weaker connection, it actually takes more effort to lie.
Yeah.
It takes more effort to be tactful. And so you load that up with the emotional weight and the emotional load, the mental load of having to constantly twist yourself and conform and, you know, tie yourself in knots and soften. No wonder you're in burnout, because it's an exhausting amount of things to do, particularly if it's for everything that you say. And you think about how much you talk a lot, and you specifically, but also like you as the general
the general you.
You talk every day, and it is such a different concept when you actually think about it like that. And particularly for ADHD people who have a hard time, for example, you know, if they were to lie, it often comes from an impulse to not get into trouble, as opposed to a premeditated, you know, pre-thought up lie in order to get out of something.
Yeah. And it's interesting as you say that too, right? Because like there's this amazing author and artist called Devon Price. She just does a great book.
See, you remember the name.
It's because it's in my notes. It's written down. And otherwise I was like, there's no way I was going to remember that. But like, you know, she talks very much that being direct is often a way of conserving energy and cutting through social performance, right? And it's almost a kindness to our brains to be direct and to be honest, because it takes a lot of effort to lie. And like for me as well, like I can't remember. Like, I'm not going to remember what the lie is, right? Yeah. So, like, there's no point in doing it. Plus, as well, like, the other thing I discovered, like, I should not play poker because you can, like, literally read everything. Like, if my words don't tell you, my face will tell you exactly what I'm thinking of you. And, like, it was a friend's poker night that we went to one time, and I think and it was just playing with pretend money, right? But, like, we were all given a certain amount of pretend money, and I was off the tables in 7.5 minutes or something, because it was just like every single hand, it was just so obvious.
Yeah, right.
Exactly what was going on with me and what I was thinking. And husband's like, you're never doing like, you're never taking to a proper casino.
We're never going to Vegas.
We're never going to Vegas. But like, you know, again, it's that similar thing. Like it takes so much effort to manufacture like a fake exterior, to manufacture a lie, all that sort of stuff. Like I don't think I could, even if I wanted to. But at the same time, it also takes a lot of effort to soften the message.
Yes.
In whatever form that is, even writing. Apparently, as well, it's rude. Apparently, it's rude. If someone sends you an email and they say, like, hi, Freya, and they ask you a question, and then, what do you think? And then you just respond with your opinion without a hello and without a thank you or a goodbye. And apparently, that's rude.
Well, it's the exclamation mark complex. To exclamation mark or not to exclamation mark, that is the question.
Yes.
Is, am I adding too many? Have I added enough?
Yes.
If all of this is just a full stop at the end and I'm not excited.
Yes.
You know, so how was your day? Exclamation mark. Well,
have I been excited too much? Like, am I appropriate?
Yeah. I hope you have a great weekend. Exclamation mark, exclamation mark. I mean, it is communication styles in particular, and particularly generational as well. Have different interpretations, and so adjusting your communication style can also be quite difficult, because again, it's the catastrophization of, when this person gets this email, are they going to think that I'm a horrible, horrible person?
Yes, spoiler alert for me, they will. Absolutely. But it's like, it's that mismatch between like what's acceptable and what's not. And as you say that, the generational, I'm having a little giggle at the tomes usually, like when I get SMSs from my parents, and over time they've gotten shorter, but particularly when SMSs started and they came out and it was actually limited to a certain number of characters, and your phone would then like beep 5 or 6 times as you would literally get this equivalent of an email with, you know, the salutations and the sign-offs at the bottom and all of those different types of things.
Having to explain, I know who you are, because you're in my
phone.
book.
It's in my phone. But again, that's something that's evolved and it's changed over time. Is like, you know, it's become more acceptable to send shorter messages, and it's become more acceptable to, you know, to use emojis and help and all of that sort of stuff. But for me, still, it takes often a lot of thought and a lot of effort to write a message that is, you know, comes across in a supportive and constructive way.
Yeah,
just say that.
I think the worst part as well is the over explanation.
Yeah,
as well. which is because if I'm constantly looking at, if I'm people pleasing, which has taken me quite a few years to, shelve and deconstruct and take off those layers. People pleasing was a survival mechanism for me during some particularly hard years. And so now when it comes to being heard, it's really funny what I'll say and then what other people will interpret.
Yes.
And so even if it's just a simple case of, staying at somebody's house, but they had something planned that night, so they've gone out and come back, they've made a little bit of noise, and so I've woken up and I've, put headphones on or earplugs in or something like that. And the next morning, it's the, sorry, did we wake you up when we came in? And be like, yeah, it was fine. I just, put some headphones on and, watched a TV show until I fell back asleep. And then it's like the disparity between they're expecting you to say, no, it's fine. Versus what they heard, which was, yes, it was a problem for me and I created a solution for it.
Yeah.
And then the defensiveness that comes out afterwards.
Out of it, as opposed to what you're actually doing is just stating what happened.
Yeah.
Like literally, it was okay. I heard you. I managed it.
Yep.
It's fine. Can we move on?
Yep. Absolutely. Or even just the anticipation of knowing that that's going to happen. You might have somebody who you communicate with frequently.
Yeah.
Where you'll say things like, oh, I'm really stressed at the moment because I've got a lot on my plate, but I understand that it's my fault for putting all that stuff on my plate. So calling it out beforehand, but then the other person saying, well, you shouldn't overload, you should do this and you should do that and da-da-da-da-da. And then having to explain, I know that.
Yeah.
I was trying to call out the fact that
I'm aware of it, but I've done it again. Yeah.
And so I'm not looking for anything from you.
Yeah.
And so I think that's where a lot of the miscommunication comes from is the, two roads diverged in a yellow wood, and I took the path less traveled, which is to say that, I'm trying to, communicate potentially in a roundabout way that I'm fine with what's happening and I've accepted the responsibility.
Yeah. And I think it's interesting is like you say that, right? And that's the thing with communication, right? Because it's two people expressing themselves, and right, however that's done, whether it's pictures, words, spoken, written, whatever those different combinations, sign language, whatever that might be, you've got two people that are communicating. And so one's sending, one's receiving, and in between there is a whole lot of stuff, right? A whole lot of noise.
The unspoken. The history, my narratives, my baggage, my trauma, my all this that I'm bringing, all of that sort of stuff into that conversation. It's the external distractions and the noise and the environment and all that. So there is so much distortion that happens between that. Yeah.
Right. It's a miracle that 2% of it, honestly, gets through. So I think it's, there are going to be communication differences and there are going to be.
It's radio waves and then there's interference.
Yeah. And it's going to be, and it's messy. It's messy. I think no matter which way you do it, but it's that thing of if you're the receiver, it's how can you be open to it being good intent, whatever it is, and assuming the best of the other person. And if you're the sender of it, how can you send the message in the most appropriate way?
And I think the thing that helped me the most was I talk, and I talk for the sake of talking sometimes.
No,
heaven forbid. And whether, sometimes it's to fill a silence. Sometimes it's just because I don't have a filter and because there's a lot of stuff going on in my head, and I will use people as soundboards.
Yep.
Because I find that helps me to frame my thoughts in a way that helps me see the different outcomes. So I might be talking at people for a little bit of time. And, particularly with some of my colleagues at work, they just accept that now and they will sit there in silence and let me talk, which I love you for, by the way. Thank you if you're listening. But it comes down to, again, having that mutual understanding, which is really, really so important. And finding the people that you can communicate with on that same wavelength. But really, the thing that helped me the most was structuring what I want to say by asking myself the question of what is the goal of this communication? And if there isn't one, then there's just a little bit of a pause beforehand and a sort of a self-check, which is, do I need to say this right now?
Yeah.
And I found that that's actually been quite good. Yeah. I use my manager would laugh because I use SCQA quite a lot, which is the situation, the complication, the question, and the answer.
It's a strategy framework by Boston Consulting Group.
Yeah.
That's been around for a long time, a way of communicating messages succinctly. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, it's helped me order my thoughts. And what's even better is that from a blunt perspective, if you can frame things in a way to state the situation, what is, and then just say, this is the problem. This is the problem comes across less as an accusation.
That has not been my experience.
Maybe it's the way I'm framing it.
You are the nice one.
I am the nice one. I will wear that. And then, just asking the question, which is, how can we get through this together?
Yeah. What are the options? Yeah. And I love that too, right? And it's finding the tool that works for you, right? And it's finding the thing that makes sense.
Yeah.
And makes it easier for you to do it. So, yeah, it's good. Well, it's probably a nice spot to pause this session. And I've called it a session. It is feeling a bit like therapy.
But it's not therapy.
It's not therapy.
Nor is it a replacement for therapy.
But it's a good opportunity to pause and invite everyone to have a think about what, blunt means to you and how much of this resonates in your experience and in your world.
Yeah, visit our website, go to the quirk books, write out your feelings and see what you connect with in this message.
Yeah. And then next time we come back, we're just going to be reframing blunt and looking at it a little bit differently and sharing those tools that we have found useful.
And having that compassion and acceptance. We will see you soon.
Thanks, guys. Stay spicy. You're listening to the Neurospice and Life podcast
with Hanna and Freya, besties, brains, and more.
If you've enjoyed listening, follow us on YouTube or your favourite podcast app and share it with someone else who knows the sting of a sticky label.
We'll see you next time. Until then, stay spicy, stay wonderful.